You're listening to KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas, the voice of the people, voted best radio station for music 2 years in a row by the Dallas Observer.
Did you know that KNON podcasts all of its local talk shows? KNON has local talk, each show covering your community in its own unique way. So if you missed one of our great morning talk shows, you can go back and listen to it online. We keep the shows for 2 months so you can hear everything you have been missing out on. Visit KNON.org for more information about the KNON Morning Talk Shows podcast. Also available on iTunes.
What a game! What a game!
Get off my lawn.
Jim Schutze here with you with Get Off My Lawn, the weekly radio version of a feature I write every weekday for the Dallas Observer webpage called Get Off My Lawn. Glad to be with you. By the way, Get Off My Lawn is available on video. You can watch me here if you go to Two Hats Publishing. Gene and Bonnie on the previous show were bragging about how they'd dressed up for this, so you could see them in their tuxedos if you went to Two Hats Publishing. On the other hand, I am buck naked. I'm sitting here without a stitch on. And if it's your desire this early in the weekend to see a guy in his old wrinkledy white guy in his late 60s sitting there naked, we'll go to Two Hats Publishing, and you can see the whole sordid display. It's good to be back, and as you know, I like to talk here about City Hall stuff and what's going on. And I sometimes take my cues, even though I work for the Dallas Observer, the weekly newspaper. I read the Dallas Morning News, our only daily newspaper, closely. I consider that part of my duty, one of the more onerous duties that I have sometimes, but I do it every morning. And this week there was a story that caught my eye, and I wanted to be sure to talk to you about it because it's part of a larger pattern and an issue. It's kind of a complicated issue, but I think we can sort of work our way into it in a way that may make sense. The immediate story I'm talking about was one that may have slipped by your attention that had to do with the Audubon Center, which is the new bird-watching center that was built. It was opened 4 years ago in 2008 in southern Dallas, as supposedly as part of the Trinity River project. It's a beautiful place. I've been out there. It's a very nice building, and it's sort of near the river, although there are a bunch of fences. You can't really quite, it's difficult to get to the river from it. But it's run by the National Audubon Society. They're the bird watchers. And certainly I'm not going to be against bird watchers. I mean, I'm a bird watching, pro bird watching kind of a guy. I'm not a bird watcher myself. I wish I had time to develop that interest, and I may one day. And forgive me if and let me mention, when I have done bird watching, I have also been buck naked when I do that. I always take off all my clothes when I go out into the woods to do bird watching. I just feel there's something Faulknerian about that. And excuse my cough. I'm sorry. I'm a little a tad under the weather. So we were talking about naked bird watching, but that's not really the issue that I wanted to get to today. The story in the morning news reported, sadly, that things haven't gone quite as well as hoped for with the Audubon Center. Their visitation is pretty low next to what was projected, and not enough people are getting down there to go bird watching. And so the story suggested that the city staff thought it was all a matter of advertising and image. They needed more marketing, and the story said they only had a budget of $100,000 for marketing. It didn't say $100,000 how often it didn't say if that was an annual budget or it's like a total sum they have, or $100,000 a day. It didn't say, but they only have $100,000 to advertise bird watching at the Audubon Center, and the city staff thought that they suggested they need a lot more than that, and that maybe if they could get a big advertising campaign going, they could get more visitors down there. Now, what the morning news story did not mention, and I think we need to consider here, is that and I'm leaving out one part. They quoted the director of the Audubon Center as saying that, well, their mission was really to improve the site, improve the land where it is, which was another one of these illegal dumps, landfills, that was converted so it could be a bird watching center. So they said their mission was to improve the site and something else sort of touchy-feely about helping the birds or something. And that's all well and good, and I am all for helping the birds. But here's the part they left out. There's a contract between the Audubon Center and the city. There's a specific contract, a management agreement, and it calls on the Audubon Center to achieve certain goals along the way. The land that it's built on is city land, and so that gives the city, a right to want to know what's going on right there. But there's more to it than that. You and I, dear taxpayer, we actually give the Audubon Center about $350,000 a year. 350 G's. To me, that's real money. If I were a member of the Dallas City Council, I might sneer at that and say, $350,000, please don't bother me with pennies. I deal in tens of millions every day. But to me, just a sort of local schmoo resident, $350,000 is a bunch of money, and we give that every year to the Audubon Center. If you figure average house taxes in this city, average, as about $5,000 a year, somewhere in there, we're talking 70 taxpayers, 70 homeowners, all their taxes that they pay every year going straight to the Audubon Center, to the Birdwatching Center. And as I say, in exchange for this money from the city, the Audubon Center is supposed to be hitting certain numbers. They're supposed to be attracting, since they opened in 2008, they're supposed to be attracting X many visitors every year. They're supposed to be making X amount of money from ticket sales. So apparently, they're way, way, way below that number. Does this mean that the people who run the Audubon Center are bad at what they're doing, or there's something wrong with them? No, not necessarily. I remember when this thing was being set up, that in the initial go-arounds, when people were talking about this Audubon Center and how many people would visit it and what it would be, I remember distinctly that the Audubon people themselves presented fairly conservative numbers. But then you see this thing's got to be sold to the city council. And I think that the Audubon's numbers didn't quite add up to the amount of money that the city staff wanted to give to the Audubon Center. It was too little action, too small a number of visitors. I think the projections that the Audubon people brought forward, this would have been 5 years ago, were pretty accurate. Looking at what's happened since, I think it was pretty close to the amount of traffic they've had. But it wasn't enough to wow the city council. So the city council would say, sure, give them $350,000 a year. That's peanuts for what they're doing down there. The staff needed more of a show, so they brought in one of these economic consulting companies. I call them 10 clowns in a Studebaker. These companies show up out of nowhere, and they come up with these grand projections for how much economic impact something's going to have, and it always works out to be what they're hired by the city staff, and they say what the city staff wants them to say. So I think it was the consultant who came up with all these what turned out to be unrealistic numbers about what was going to happen at the Audubon Center. So blah blah blah, whoever's fault it is, it ain't working. And you would think that if it's not working, the city council has a contract with them, and it's our money. It's coming from us. I don't care if you're a property owner or an apartment dweller. You pay this tax. Listen, if you're an apartment dweller, you probably pay more per head in property tax than I do for owning a house. It comes out of your rent, and it's a pretty good stiff amount of your rent. So we all pay this tax, and I'm not a nitpicker. I don't want to be the guy at the dinner party who's going over the tab with his little calculator to make sure that the tip is the right amount. But come on, $350,000 a year, that's a lot of money, and we have this contract. So you would think that the council would say, well, if there's something wrong down there and it ain't working out, let's go back and let's see what it is. Let's count the money. Let's count up what they've brought in. Let's look at the contract, and let's see where we stand. And maybe it's not the Audubon birdwatcher people's fault. Maybe they got pressured into some kind of unrealistic projections by city staff, but that would be interesting to know, wouldn't it? We need to know if the city staff is using these 10 clowns in a Studebaker phony baloney economic whatever they are consultants to rouge the corpse, phony up the picture, make it look better than it is. You would think the city council would ask those questions, especially when the staff is saying, what they really need is several hundred more grand a year for marketing. Well, wait. I mean, maybe not, but let's count the money. We will see none of that. I promise you. We will see none of that. The city council will not ask for any accountability on this issue because it doesn't want any bad news. It doesn't want to know what the money is, really. So, did I come here today to talk to you about the birdwatching center and how they don't have enough people coming down there to watch birds? Not exactly. Not exactly. The birdwatching thing, the Audubon Center is part of a larger picture. It includes the horse park. We've talked about that a lot here. That's the park that the city wants to develop. Also, right next to the Audubon Center in southern Dallas, next to the river. It's a place where people will be able to do this sport called dressage, where they wear tuxedos like Gene and Bonnie on the previous show, and they jump horses over bushes, and it's kind of an English type of sport. So they want to have the horse park there for jumping horses over bushes. And then another great idea they have is the golf course that they want to build. They want to build this PGA championship golf course, not a public golf course. It'll be on public land, but it'll be private. It'll cost $150,000 to $200,000 a year to join, and it'll be run by AT&T Corporation. So we got the bird watching center, and then we have the jumping horses over bushes place, and then we have the $150,000 a year to get in golf course. Am I leaving anything out? Oh, yes. We have the Calatrava, quote, signature bridge that goes from downtown. It's a bridge that leads from downtown to Ray's Gun Shop in West Dallas. It's a multi-lane freeway bridge so that we can get more people over to Ray's. And Ray's it's a very good gun shop. I'm not, and I think it's actually called Ray's Sporting Goods. And I'm not making fun of Ray's. It's a good place. So we've spent some $200 million to bring a Spanish architect, Santiago Calatrava, in here to build this freeway bridge to a part of town where the point is there's not much going on, West Dallas. People always get mad at me when I say that, and they say, well, there could be a lot going on. Things could happen, and that's absolutely true. But how often do you bring a Spanish architect in to build this huge suspension bridge to a place where you know there's nothing going on, but you think maybe something might happen later? It's an odd way to spend money. However, and this is the larger pattern that I wanted to talk about, it's the Calatrava Bridge. It's the 150 G's a year golf course. It's the jumping horses over bushes place. And it's the bird watching center. Together, we have sort of a pattern here. And it's called the Trinity River Project. And there's a reason why why this same bizarre phenomenon keeps showing up in it. Why the city spends these huge amounts of money on these kind of glitzy things that would seem to benefit a very small population. I'm not, let me go back and say I'm not against bird watchers a bit. I love them. They're great people. But 350 G's a year to help people watch birds, goodness knows how much money for the jumping horses over bushes things, hundreds of acres of city land, and $12 million cash to help them build the golf course, and then hundreds of millions for the string thing, the fancy bridge. It's a pretty bridge. It's a nice bridge. I'm not saying it's not, but man, why did we do that? And all of this fits into a larger pattern, which has to do with this so-called Trinity River Project. These things, and I will get back to this in the next segment, these things are what are called bread and circuses for you and me, the masses. It's Jim Schutze with Get Off My Lawn, and we'll see you back here in a minute.
If it's time to get rid of your old gas guzzler, the KNON Vehicle Donation Program can help. There is still a market for those old vehicles, and if you donate it, you are helping to support the quality programming here on KNON. Just call 877-KNON-AUTO or go online to knon.org. We'll take care of everything from pickup to tax paperwork. That's 877-KNON-AUTO.
Want to hear some great Texas blues? KNON has the CD for you. KNON's Texas Blues Radio Volume 5, our latest blues compilation CD to benefit community radio, sponsored by Forever Young Records. This CD features 15 tracks and 60 minutes of great original Dallas-Fort Worth blues from Tutu Jones, Blues Boy Bo, Buddy Whittington, Andrea Dawson, Kirkland James, Sonny Colley, Johnny Red and the Roosters, the Chris Watson Band, the Two Tones, the Rough Cut Blues Band, Jeff Stone and Charlie Love, Dave Millsap, Sirloin and the Ash Kicking Machine, Michael J. and the Paul Bird Band, and JJ and the Detonators. We're only selling 1,000 copies, and it will never be reissued. Get your copy now at Forever Young Records in Grand Prairie, Record Town in Fort Worth, and in Dallas at Bill's Records and Rewind Music. The CD is available as an MP3 download at knon.org. All proceeds benefit community radio, KNON. For more info on Texas Blues Radio Volume 5, visit us at knon.org. Get your copy now and hear some real Texas blues. Your ears will thank you for it.
Hey, babes, take one.
Jim Schutze back with Get Off My Lawn. We've been talking about this pattern that we see around the Trinity River project with the bird watching center and the jumping horses over bushes center and the expensive golf course and the fancy bridge. By the way, listen, I want to hear from you. I'm here at 972-647-1893. You may have your own thoughts about this stuff and why it goes on the way it does. Call me up at 972-647-1893. So what's wrong with any of this? What's the alternative? Well, there could be lots of alternatives. These things are sold to the public because they're going in on this available land in southern Dallas as economic development for southern Dallas. That's the justification. That's why we need the English horse jumping place and the golf course, because it's going to turn things around for southern Dallas. And as we've discussed here in previous installments of Get Off My Lawn, things in that area certainly need to be turned around. Man, I don't think people even, I think even the people who talk about we're going to go down there and create opportunity and turn it around, I don't think they know how bad the situation is. I looked at census tract data for that area, and in that whole area around where they got the horse park and so on, over 50% of the people are what's called outside the labor force. That means they have no work, they've never had work. And they're not looking for work because they don't believe that they can find any. Then you have regular unemployment on top of that. That's people who used to work but they lost their job. In one of the census tracts, right by where the golf course is going to go, you wind up with 70% of the people not working. And as we've also discussed here on Get Off My Lawn, the reasons why that happens are very tough social issues, deep-running social issues. I told you about a conversation I had with the Reverend Eddie Lane at Bible Way Bible Church in that area. He's been there for 47 years, and he said that a lot of that permanent unemployment, the people who are permanently outside the labor force, is made up of young people who have no shot at getting a job. As they stand today on the ground, they can't get a job. He's talking about the tens of thousands of kids who drop out of DISD functionally illiterate, can't read or write, fall into crime, get sent to prison. The saddest thing he told me was that they come back from prison just absolutely determined never to go back there again. I'm going to lead a straight and narrow life, a good life, and make my way. But now they're still functionally illiterate, and now they're ex-cons. So they're simply not going to get a job. You can. Everybody talks about creating employment opportunities in that area. You could put a huge employer right in the middle of that area, and the bulk of the people in that terrible number, 50% outside the labor force, they can't get the jobs. They might as well not apply for the jobs. They're not going to be hired. People are going to come in from, I don't know, Garland, DeSoto, Plano, wherever, and snatch up those jobs. So we're talking about very, very serious issues. And do we want to do something about it? Well, I would think, yeah, we would want to do something about it. If you absolutely have to add everything up on a calculator in dollars and cents, the cost of having that many people outside the productive economy is enormous in law enforcement and everything else. I don't think you have to go to the calculator for it. All you have to do is, consult your heart and think of the tens of thousands of wonderful little babies who are born every year into that situation and think, man, I wish there was some way we could turn that around. Well, Reverend Lane and other smart people I've talked to who are in that community and pay attention to it and know what's going on say, yeah, there are things you could do. You need to take these young people, try to catch them before they get sent to prison, certainly catch them when they come back from prison, and you got to work with them. Reverend Lane said what they need is a massive thing that's kind of like a elaborate version of rehab, where you take people and you say, look, you have no shot at ever getting a job until you can read and write. And so we got to teach you to read and write. And you also need to sort of understand the morality of working and living within the economy versus the morality of the smart guys on the street. Yeah, they can make a ton more money faster, but look where they wind up. Look where you wound up. You don't want to do that, and you will also feel better about yourself if you learn how to do it the right way. So these people who know the community say you could do that work. It's not for free. You have hundreds of brave little churches in that area trying to do that work and doing a good job. And you have some huge churches doing that work. I don't mean to minimize their effort, but let's say as a community we wanted to do something more. Well, we could. There are ways to do it. You have to do it smart. You can't have it be a bunch of outsiders coming in, wagging their fingers at people. I mean, come on, think about it. That's not going to work. So whatever it is has got to have the legitimacy of coming from within the community. It's got to be people that the young people in the community would trust and listen to and see as legitimate. But you could do it. You got to pay people to do that. I mean, people have to live. They have to go out. Look, even preachers have to pay for their groceries. I can tell you that. I'm a preacher's son. People have to live, and so you have to have a budget for these things. So here we are, $350,000 a year for the bird watchers that we're paying, and that's supposed to help the area around the bird watching center. $350,000 a year. Before I go on with this, let me invite you again to call me up if you disagree with what I'm saying. 972-647-1893. This is Jim Schutze with Get Off My Lawn. 972-647-1893. So we're paying $350 G's a year for the bird watching center that can't attract enough bird watchers. We're going to give 400 acres and $12 million to the expensive golf course. That you can't join it for less than they say it's going to be more than $150,000 a year. So you can't go play golf there unless you're pretty wealthy. So we're going to do that, and that's supposed to help the neighborhood around there. So we got and then the English jumping horses over Bush's place. Did I mention that already? And then we've got the fancy bridge, the pretty bridge that goes from downtown to Ray's Gun Shop. And these things are all going to help Southern Dallas. So my point would be this. If that's really your mission, if you really want to turn stuff around in that part of town, there are heck of a lot more efficient ways to do it. First of all, look at the real problem. The real problem is not that Southern Dallas lacks birdwatching centers. It's that there are these real, deep-running, tough social needs that need to be addressed. And if we could address them, and if we could help turn people's lives around so that instead of being career in and out of prison criminals, they become productive members of society, that'd be huge. That'd be huge. I think that if we were sincere in all of this talk about how, this is all to help the neighborhood, that's the kind of stuff we'd be doing, but we're not. Instead, we keep putting up these baubles. And notice the similarity of these baubles. The fancy bridge, the horse park, the golf course, maybe even the bird watching. What kind of people do these things appeal to? Well, they could appeal to any of us, I suppose, but they appeal in particular to very wealthy people, kind of like Park Cities people. These are sort of Park Cities things that we're plunking down in southern Dallas. And isn't that odd? Why does this pattern keep showing up this way? Why do we keep seeing stuff like this that's plunked down in southern Dallas? We're told it's going to help southern Dallas, but clearly, it's stuff like expensive golf courses. Well, that's because these things are all aspects of the Trinity River plan. And the Trinity River plan, no matter what anybody tells you, is the plaything, the godchild, the special project of the old elite in this city. And it has so what is the Trinity River plan? Did they start out thinking, well, we gotta put a bunch of stuff in southern Dallas that we can use, like golf courses? No. The Trinity River plan is a multi-billion-dollar adventure that's the biggest public works project in the history of this city, and it has a more central focus than the bread and circuses stuff that you excuse me, there's that cough again I got just in time for Christmas. It has a more central focus than these baubles, bangles, and beads that you see sprinkled around, the bling. And the focus is this thing called the Trinity River Toll Road. That's what they really want. That's what it's all about. They want that toll road. The Trinity River plan is a road building plan, and its purpose is to create this new highway that is designed to be a special sort of private ingress and egress, a private access for development of the old Stemmons Industrial Corridor, redevelopment. They want to redevelop it as a multi-use Hanging Gardens of Babylon, fancy schmancy place. And so the hope is that they'll get this toll road built with taxpayer money, of course, not their own money, but it will greatly enhance the value of their holdings along the river. Let me pause for a second. We got Jeff on line one. Jeff, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. What's on your mind?
Well, I think you're just a little bit wrong, but not a whole lot.
Okay, not too much.
Not too much. These things aren't to help the neighborhood; they're to help the land. And you talked about, these things are for Park Cities folks. Well, Park Cities is out of land, and there's more people with money coming in. They want that lifestyle, so the city's going to build it for them. And where are they going to build it? Well, they're going to build it around the horses jumping over bushes place, and they're going to build it around the golf course, and they're going to, it's not going to help the neighborhood until these other folks move in and displace the folks that are already there. It's going to help the land. It's not going to help the neighborhood.
Well, if it did that, though, I mean, Jeff, I would grant the city, if these projects raised land values in the area around them, that would, in a sense, be good for the neighborhood. Right?
It would not. It would not, because the people, if you raise land values, you raise taxes, you raise the cost for the people who are there to continue to live there.
Oh, I see. Sure. And so you just displace them.
It's displacing, yes.
Yeah, you run them off.
That's pretty much all I had to say on it. You were just a little bit off, but I mean, you're right there. But it's Park Cities is out of land, so they gotta, people are still making a lot of money. They gotta live someplace. Well, let's live next to the golf course.
Well, Jeff, I thank you for your call, and that's an important point. And
Well, thank you for taking my call.
Sure, and a very valid point that he makes, that the people who are interested in horse parks and golf courses and Audubon centers can't put them in their own neighborhood because there isn't land there and it's too expensive. If I were to disagree with Jeff, it would be not by much. I don't see, even if these things were hugely successful, I don't see them expanding out from their own confines and changing the residential patterns. In other words, I don't see the Park Cities people moving into that area. I think we have the example of National Golf Course, which has been in southern Dallas for 10 years. It's had no effect outside its own confines. People drive in and drive out and are more than happy to do so. I saw some numbers somewhere recently which said that people will drive 45 miles to get to a golf course. Golfers, as we know, are sort of nuts about golf. And I think that's what's going to happen with this stuff. People are going to drive into it and drive out of it. But Jeff makes an important point that this is all about kind of land grab. And let's pause also to talk to Jay on line 3. Jay, what's on your mind this morning?
Yeah, Jim, I think it is all about a land grab. I think it's basic gentrification. They don't care about the people who live there. They're just preparing for those who want to move back into that area because it's going to be close to downtown and more valuable in the future. But for the people there, they're setting the stage to move them out. That's the bottom line. They don't care about them. They're just part of the labor force, reserve labor force, or whatever. And, the only thing that the developers will have for those people is chump change jobs. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, that's my basic comment.
And Jay, thank you. And chump change jobs, if that, I don't think even the chump change jobs go to these young people who are functionally illiterate and they got records and they're unemployable. And so what does happen to them? If this displacement happens, where do they go? Don't we even? Why do we not even ask that question? Do they evaporate? Do they leave the surface of the earth somehow? I just don't think that anybody should even mention helping the neighborhood without addressing that question. Help whom in the neighborhood? That's what I want to know. Otherwise, it's kind of exploitive. It's using this stuff as a rationale, and we're going to come back to this after this last break. Jim Schutze with Get Off My Lawn. We'll see you in a minute.
Howdy, y'all. This is Johnny Baker Jr. from Oak Cliff, Texas. The only type of Blue Monday I can stand is if Fats Domino is playing the piano. To fix this, start your week right. Listen to the Magic Time Warp Show with Ranger Rita, Action Annie, and Rockin' Robin. Soothe your Monday morning groove from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on KNON 89.3. We are the voice of the people.
Conspiracy is a home.
211 Texas, a program of the Texas Health and Human Services Commission, is committed to helping Texas citizens connect with the services they need, whether by phone or internet. Our goal is to present accurate, well-organized, and easy-to-find information from over 60,000 state and local health and human services programs. We have programs ranging from child care to GED instruction, from dental care to food pantries to public utility services. Contact 211 at 211texas.org or dial 211 to connect with the resources you you need. If dialing 211 directly doesn't work on your telephone, you can call 877-541-7905 for 211 Texas. Don't let your family go without the help they need.
Hey, babes, take one.
Jim Schutze back with Get Off My Lawn. We've been talking about all the stuff the city says it's doing for Southern Dallas. We've got Willie on line 38. Willie.
Hello?
Yes, Willie, how are you?
Yeah, good morning, Jim.
Good morning.
This is Will. Thanks for taking my call. I totally agree with the last two callers on that about that land grab. See, as that land is right now, it's just lying dormant. But if they put development over there, it's not to help us. I'm black, too, and I live in that area. It's not to help us. It's to help the rich people. Same way it would have been, same way it's going to be in the Fair Park area over there. They're developing that area around Fair Park, South Dallas. Eventually, they're going to move most of the black people out of that area and turn it into a business area.
And Willie, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Because you sound like you pay attention to this stuff.
I do.
If that's what's going on, then how come Tennell Atkins and Von Seal Jones Hill, the representatives from that district, are such solid supporters of all this golf course, horse park stuff? Do you have a feel for that? Why do they stick up for it?
Okay, I'm going to take a stab at it, what I believe. It's all about the dollar. It's all about under the table money. Now, you think they do all that campaigning to get those positions, and those positions like that city council just pays a little bit. It goes a lot farther than that. Those people are getting under the table money.
Well,
I'm gonna say it like it is. That's what I think.
Willie, I thank you for your call. You made some good points, and thanks for calling in. Let me get my own impression of that. I don't think that Von Seal Hill, I honestly don't think she takes money under the table. She's an attorney and a judge and a smart person who's got too much investment in doing right in her life to take that kind of chance. I don't think she's that kind of person. I don't think Tennell Atkins does. I think Tennell Atkins is a guy who spent a lot of his life on serving his part of town. So here's the mystery. Where does this stuff come from, and why do the Southern Dallas representatives support it? And this is sort of what I wanted to get to. We talked about the Trinity River project and that toll road. The toll road is what they want. That's the big game. And they don't want anything else going on that will interfere with it. They don't, this is 6,000 acres of land in total that we're talking about. And they keep talking about it as the biggest urban forest park in America or in the world or something, or in the solar system. I don't know. But it's 6,000 acres of land. And they don't, and they sold it to us in 1998. I remember way back then, when we voted on this stuff, they sold it to us as a parks program. We were going to have all these lakes and stuff, sailboats downtown. Nobody even talks about that anymore. But that's why we voted for it. It wasn't a parks program, ever. That was a lie. That was a trick. It was this highway that they want so that a small group of interests, really a small group of families, can redevelop land that they've owned forever along the river as a fancy-schmancy, like apartment, condo, business, retail thing. And they want to have their own road in and out. It'll be like the world's biggest gated community, so that they don't have to see all of that unpleasant stuff around them in the city. And they want that road. And they don't want anything else coming along that will get in the way of that road. So they don't want an over, look, if this is really a 6,000 acre park, if it's really the biggest one in the world, oh my goodness, we ought to be making world news with this. You'd think that we'd have the world's greatest park designer come in and talk about the overall design for this 6,000 acre park. We ought to have the New York Times and the British press and everybody in here talking about Dallas is developing the world's biggest urban park. Well, nobody's talking about it because they don't want an overall design for that park, because it's not about a park, it's about a road. And they're afraid if they really have a real park plan, that'll get in the way of the road. So they stick this stuff out there. I used the phrase earlier, bread and circuses. They throw this stuff out to be able to say, well, look what we're doing. We're giving you stuff. We're giving you an Audubon Center. We're giving you a golf course. We're giving you a horses jumping over the bushes thing and a beautiful bridge. We're giving you stuff. There's stuff happening. Don't complain. But what kind of stuff? And here's where you just get down to people and how people think. This project is very, very dominated by Park Cities kind of people. And so the stuff they're doing is the kind of stuff they like. It's just the kind of stuff they think is cool. And it doesn't mean it's not cool. It is cool for them. But it's their kind of stuff. That's why you have this, I think, bizarre anomaly of putting all these ultra-rich people things down in this area in southern Dallas, and you're saying, well, that'll make it better. Better? Who says better? Better for whom? Well, it's the kind of stuff that Park Cities people would look at and think, well, that's better. There's a golf course. That's better. There's a horsey place. That's better. It just reflects their culture. And so what about the southern Dallas representatives? Why aren't they saying, hey, don't insult us with this stuff. This stuff isn't going to help anybody. If you're going to spend 350 G's a year of tax money, don't put it in a bird watching center. Put it in a rehabilitation center for young people to teach them literacy and to teach them a decent way of life. Let's do something real. So how come we don't get that from Tennell Atkins and Von Seal Hill? And you may notice I'm leaving out another African-American city council member, Dwayne Caraway. I think Councilman Caraway has expressed genuine, specific, action-oriented commitment to his community over the years. You see Caraway out there doing real stuff for his community, shutting down hot sheet motels, taking on social, moral issues within his community in an honest, tough way. Not so much Hill and Atkins. And Hill and Atkins, I'm sorry to say, but I've observed this again and again in city council meetings. When the Park Cities ladies show up at a city council meeting, Von Seal Hill will stop the meeting and say, well, we have some very distinguished visitors here today. Let me introduce them. And I think, I don't know. They're not undistinguished, but they're just rich ladies. It's not like they're the governors here or something. And Atkins is this way about anything to do with SMU, where he went to school. There's a kind of suck-up mentality. There's a kind of worshiping the rich people, and it gets in the way of their vision, and they start thinking, oh yeah, this is what we need. We need a horsey place. We need a expensive golf course that none of us can ever afford to join. It sort of just corrupts the process, and I think. I don't think, one of our callers suggested that this is a money under the table deal, and that's why the Southern Dallas reps back these things. I don't think so. We'll never know, I guess, but I don't see that. I don't see them as corrupt in that way. I think it's more of a psychological corruption where they're really impressed and intimidated by these people who propose these things. If you disagree with me, I want to invite you again. We're running out of time here. Call me up at 972-647-1893. 972-647-1893. I made one mistake at the beginning of the show. I said that you could go to Two Hats Publishing online. Just Google Two Hats Publishing, and you could see video of me sitting here buck naked doing the radio show. That's actually not true. There's a delay of some time before that goes up. So what you'll see are previous installments of the show with me fully dressed. But if you've ever just wanted to see an old man sitting there with no clothes on, this is your chance. Two Hats Publishing, and Google that, and you'll find us. So, back to the topic at hand, and as I say, one last invite, call me up at 972-647-1893. We're talking about these sort of bizarre deals that keep coming along. These oddly Park Cities things that pop up in southern Dallas, and we're told that it's to help southern Dallas. And we've had a number of callers here who've suggested, look, it's about the land. And clearly that's true. If you're AT&T or you're somebody else in the Park Cities and you want to build a new golf course, you look around, where can you get hundreds of acres of land for a golf course that's close to downtown? Nowhere. It's too expensive. However, you can in this area. You can find land there for stuff like this, and that's a lot of it. And let me pause for a second. We got Bill on line one. Bill, how are you this morning?
I'm fine.
What's up, Bill?
Well, when we moved to Dallas when I was about 7 years old, we moved into the project, and then we moved off of Bedford Road, and we couldn't get trash picked up out there. That's out in West Dallas.
Right.
And the only way we get our trash picked up, like bulk trash or out of the ordinary trash, was my dad would have to hide it in boxes.
Okay.
And I went to school, to the private school, the Catholic school over there on Singleton.
Uh-huh.
And also that bridge, basically, I see it as it's a military bridge. No one would go into West Dallas, unless they would just know what's really there. And there's a lot of real interesting things there
right
in itself. And I feel like when I saw this bridge go up or going up or proposed, and I said, well, that's just a military bridge. So people would say, well, we've got this huge bridge. You can go down to a Renaissance festival, and when they're having the show, after the show, who do people go up to? They go up to the person that has the biggest horse.
Uh-huh.
And this thing here's like a big horse.
Right.
And I really do.
When you say a military bridge, tell me what you mean. I don't.
In other words, to get people into that area, would you have driven down those roads that go into there? Would you be sitting there eating at Wimpy's hamburger stand?
Yeah,
you
it's a great place.
Someone come up there and they look out of the ordinary, and you say, why are you here?
Right.
And they said, well, we used to come down here all the time to Wimpy's to get a hamburger.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the Sportatorium. The Sportatorium's gone.
Right.
Willie Nelson said he liked to play in places like that, but the history of it is just gone.
Right.
And so I don't really know what to really say other than, what to really do other than nothing, because it's almost like if you can't do anything about it.
Yeah. That area in West Dallas has a fascinating history. Way back it was Eagle Ford. There's part of it that was called Cement Town.
Yes. Well, I was raised on cement wages out of there.
Oh, really? Really?
Yes, and there was a man named Mr. Molina. I don't even know what his first name, but he had a family, and he lived on Manila Road over there, and he built probably 5 buildings that were pretty much concrete or cement and brick.
Right.
That he carried the cement when he swept out the boxcars over there.
Oh.
So those.
That's cool.
You know, so all of this is pretty much going, and you can kind of go throughout the city, go up there off Municipal or Bontob. What's it, Bontob?
Right.
They're doing the same thing. Drive into that area there, and go with someone that had some knowledge of it, and they'll say, man, you wouldn't go here after night if this was 20, 30 years ago, and they're wiping that out.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important point, that when we talk about improving areas, what do we mean? Do we have any reference to the people and their lives, or do we mean, no, we're going to clear them out? We're going to improve this area because we're going to improve the real estate. And that's a very Dallas mentality, that we have improved an area if we've replaced a bunch of old real estate that we don't think looks good with fancy new real estate. But what happened to the people who live there? What do you...
Well, I just really don't know. I'm just, like I said, I'm concerned about it because I've been in business for pretty much 40 years, and I visited with a gentleman that's in business and had quite a large employment, and he just said, well, right now the way things are, he says, I don't know if I want to hire anyone, and he's pretty much retired out of his business.
Yeah.
And I just really don't know what to say. There's no architectural history or legacy that's anywhere that seems like that gets built and kind of stands the test of time or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like you see on TV the places where there's war-torn areas, and all of their buildings seem to be built out of concrete. I'd hate to see a bomb go through one of those when they bomb one of those areas over there. Yeah. And over here, the whole neighborhood would go down.
Well, Bill, thank you very much for calling. We're running out of time, and I appreciate your call. And you make a good point, a very important point, that what's missing in all of these ideas is a focus on the people. If you want to talk about improving an area, what do you mean? Improving the land values? What about the people who live on the land? If that were the focus, and that's really been my whole point this morning, if that were the focus, you wouldn't be putting up horsey places and golf courses. You would be doing things that were directed specifically at the people and their issues and bringing them into the labor force. And that can be done. And certainly it can be done with the money that we're spending, giving away on these other projects. It's not that we can't do it. It's that apparently we don't want to do it. This is Jim Schutze with Get Off My Lawn. See you here next Saturday, same time, 10 a.m. Thanks for coming.
You're listening to KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas, the voice of the people, voted best radio station for music 2 years in a row by the Dallas Observer.
Did you know that KNON podcasts all of its local talk shows? KNON has local talk, each show covering your community in its own unique way. So if you missed one of our great morning talk shows, you can go back and listen to it online. We keep the shows for 2 months so you can hear everything you have been missing out on. Visit KNON.org for more information about the KNON Morning Talk Shows podcast, also available on iTunes.